want you to stay in the line with me. We need to know what's going on.
911, what's your emergency?
Of a shooting at a high school in Littleton, Colorado.
Apparently there's been a shooting up here at Columbine High School.
Gunmen, fellow students who rushed the school and opened fire.
Still believed to be inside the school, as are many students.
April 20th, 1999. Almost 4 years to the day after the infamous Oklahoma City bombing. In Littleton, Colorado, 2 shooters, Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold, planned an act of violence that was to take place at their high school, Columbine High School. The original plan was to set off bombs in the cafeteria during lunchtime, and they fortunately failed to go off. Klebold and Harris had to go to Plan B. They opened fire, starting at 11:15 a.m. The whole shooting lasted approximately an hour. SWAT teams, ambulances, and police arrived at the scene. Police around 11:25 and SWAT teams around 12:30. The shooters weren't discovered in the library until 5 hours after they began shooting. It was initially believed to be a hostage situation, so the SWAT team had to sweep the school room by room and evacuate students. About 3 hours after the shooting began, victims began arriving at hospitals. At one point, around 4:30, one of the sheriffs said the death toll could be up to 25 people. After students escaped the school and were cleared by law enforcement, they were sent on buses to the elementary schools, where their parents were left to find out if their children had made it out. Unfortunately, some parents had to receive the disturbing news that their son or daughter had not escaped. The shooters killed 12 students and 1 teacher before they shot themselves. Rachel Scott, Daniel Rohrbaugh, Dave Sanders, Kaya Velasquez, Stephen Kerno, Cassie Bernal, Isaiah Scholes, Matthew Kechter, Lauren Townsend, John Tomlin, Kelly Fleming, Daniel Mauser, and Corey DePuter.
As many as 25 fatalities.
You know how many guys?
I think three guys. Yeah.
The students who had escaped from the school were in shock from what they had been through. They might not have remembered information correctly when interviewed by news outlets soon after the shooting. Lead investigator Kate Batten said it was the first big event where cell phones were around, and I had witnesses giving information to the media before I even got it. A lot of that information was wrong.
It's just a gang of about 20 guys who call themselves the Trenchcoat Mafia.
Students quickly attributed the shooters to belonging to a group of outcasts at Columbine High School called the Trenchcoat Mafia due to the fact that Eric and Dylan wore trench coats to school that day.
Associate themselves with death and violence.
However, journalist Dave Cullen, who extensively covered the events at Columbine, said that sources unanimously and unequivocally confirmed that the group had nothing whatsoever to do with the murders, and very little to do with Harris and Klebold.
We remember Cassie Bernal, whose final words, as she stared death in the face, were, "Yes, I do believe in God."
Journalist Dave Cullen said that while no one would go on the record, key investigators made it clear that an alternate scenario was far more likely. The killers asked another girl, Valine Schnur, shot her, and then she lived to tell about it. Schnur's story was then apparently misattributed to Cassie. In an article published a week after the events at Columbine, Matt Bai of Newsweek stated that Harris and Klebold were apparently looking for revenge on the jocks who badmouthed them. In actuality, they performed these acts of violence out of hatred for the world. We know this because of their original plan to bomb the cafeteria. If they had specific targets, why would they try to explode the entire cafeteria? If they were seeking revenge on jocks, why would they go to shoot victims in the library? Dave Cullen said the biggest myths about the tragedy have to do with the question of who Harris and Klebold were really targeting in their rampage. Jocks, African Americans, and Christians have been widely described as their chief targets. Not a scrap of evidence supports that conclusion. As a result of the events at Columbine, school security was heightened around the nation out of fear for similar situations. Schools installed security cameras, banned backpacks, created visitor check-ins. Some even required metal detectors at school entrances, and lockdown procedures became regular practice. According to an article on KNKX about school security measures since Columbine, only 1 in 5 schools used security cameras in 1999. Today, 3 out of 5 schools use them. However, these tangible security measures were only an immediate solution. After realizing that piling heavy security measures into schools wasn't as effective as it seemed, people are now looking into a more proactive solution. Schools are aiming to create a safe and protected environment for their students from the start so that kids will feel comfortable with reporting threats to staff before anything harmful can happen. Schools have their faculty go through training and establish a protocol so they are able to handle threats reported by students of possible acts of violence. Although local law enforcement and the SWAT team did what they were trained to do, they had never encountered a situation like what happened at Columbine before. Many citizens were dissatisfied with how long it took police to enter the school and believed that more people could have been saved if they had entered earlier. Although they did nothing wrong according to their protocols, there was a general agreement that new rules needed to be established in case of future similar situations. Police developed a more offensive protocol for active shooters that would state to enter the building as soon as possible, using whatever force is necessary. According to Dave Cullen, the active protocol has proved successful at numerous shootings during the past decade. Timothy Harper from The Atlantic says police officers are setting aside traditional tactics. They are being taught to enter a building if they are the first to arrive at the scene, chase the gunman, and to kill or disable him as quickly as possible. As kids were released from the high school, family and friends gathered in Clement Park as they waited to find out if their loved ones had survived. The park became a place to create memorials made of pictures, flowers, and crosses. Keeping in mind that Clement Park was the unofficial gathering place for the people of Littleton after the shooting, the official Columbine Memorial was built there and opened to the public September 21, 2007. Each victim has an individual part of the memorial that include words from either them or their families. There is also a wall that displays quotes from injured students and first responders. Since the Columbine shooting, more money has been allocated to school counseling programs. Policies for infractions of school rules have been changed from being punishment-based to trying to help the students that are getting into trouble. Schools increased mental health services and improved violence prevention strategies, along with offering individual or group counseling for at-risk students. Another preventative measure put in place after the Columbine shooting was the Safe to Tell hotline. Safe to Tell allows anyone in the local community to anonymously report threats of violence. According to a study performed by the Secret Service, in 81% of school violence incidents studied, at least one person had information that the attacker was thinking or planning an attack. In the case of the Columbine shooting, the shooters showed warning signs before that the police or community didn't notice or failed to take action upon. Through the establishment of Safe to Tell, 83% of all Safe to Tell incidents resulted in a positive intervention or action, and tips that were received by Safe to Tell resulted in 28 prevented school attacks.
It was the first time anything like that had happened in this country.
This is the most famous high school in all of America for the wrong reasons.
The Columbine massacre was a school shooting like no other. Although it wasn't the first school shooting in U.S. history, the majority of people would agree that it is the most well-known. The nation had never encountered a situation like this before. What makes the Columbine shooting so unique? It could be that this was one of the first instances of school violence covered immediately by media outlets. It could be because the shooters planned to do much more damage than they achieved, attempting to blow up the entire school as a means to demonstrate their hatred for the world. It could be that the shooters aimed to earn the title of the worst school shooting in national history. It could be that this shooting alone influenced 74 other cases of school violence. The significance of the Columbine shooting is a culmination of these things and more. The nation knows of the shooting and should use it to improve the country and prevent further instances of gun violence. Craig Scott is both the brother of Rachel Scott, one of the victims of the Columbine shooting, and a survivor himself. Initially, he dealt with anger towards the shooters, as much of America did as well, but today he now feels pity. He says he has seen God through the events at Columbine and through Rachel's legacy. He started Rachel's Challenge, a charity that empowers people to create a positive culture within their school environment through promoting anti-bullying programs and safer schools.
I kept her memory alive, but more important than that is using her story to help people that are still alive. Using her story to help people that are going through their own tragedy,